It's 7 p.m. on Monday, December 2nd, 2024, and I will call this regular City Council meeting to order. I do want to thank everyone who's joining us this evening, and if Councilmember White would lead us in the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Whalen is not able to attend this evening. If I could get a motion to excuse him.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Whalen.
I didn't hear what you said, Councilmember Strader.
I have I move to excuse Councilmember Whalen.
Okay, perfect. And Councilmember Hall.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Okay, so it's been moved by Councilmember Strader and seconded by Councilmember Hall to excuse Councilmember Whalen this evening. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. And then just for the record, we have our planning manager Stallnecker in attendance, Director Madden, Interim Director Robeck, Chief Hernandez, and City Clerk Tricia Summers. Next item on our agenda is citizen participation. The purpose of the public comment period at this meeting is for those wishing to address the council on any matter. It's not intended for debate and discussion with the public. When you're called up, please be sure to state your name and city for the record, and we kindly remind you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. First, we have Randy Nelson.
This is on the budget or this is the...
You signed up for this one. You want to go to the budget?
Yeah, I didn't want to talk.
Okay,
I don't want to speak about it.
no problem. You want to speak about the budget? No, you want to speak. So this is the right time.
So my name is Randy Nelson. I'm a resident here in Milton. I've been a resident here for 50 plus years. I'm uncomfortable with the downzoning effects and the ADUs that are being incorporated into the fabric here in town of Milton. And so I'm not endorsing any of this lot line adjustments to where you get greater density. So I'm pretty happy with the densities that they set now, and with the ADUs, we're getting plenty more people. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Next, we have Jackie Strader.
Jackie Strader, Milton, Washington. Whenever the city has surveyed the citizens about what they value about Milton, the answer is stated time and time again that they value Milton's small town character and the quality of life it provides. How land is utilized within a community directly affects the community's character and quality of life perceived by its residents, and a sweeping change of lot width for all residential single-family lots from 75 feet to 60 feet will affect the community character and the quality of life for those of us living here. I recently knocked on doors to let people know about the proposal, and only one person told me they already knew about it, and that person knew about it because friends in real estate and development told them about it months ago. They've known about the proposal for months, which aligns with what Jeff Arango with Framework told me when I spoke with him 2 weeks ago, when he stated that the lot width change was proposed early in the summer and was being done to, I believe the word he used was simplify things, or it was just easier having one number. But there really won't be just one number because there's still another residential zone that has a different number. So I guess it's easier to remember 2 numbers than 3 numbers. And I don't understand why the administration or why all these other people were given the information and why the administration didn't give the council and citizens the same courtesy. Why do we find out about it in a council packet last month? Is it because the administration has called it a minor change, and is it not worthy of a lot of discussion? This is not a minor change. To call it that diminishes those of us who may be affected and who care about preserving the reason why people want to live here and moved here. And those I spoke with were already concerned about the state mandated changes. So why is the administration making even more changes? I was told by Jeff Aranga it was to make things easier by having the same lot width for residential multi and residential single family. To that I asked the administration, easier for who? For those who can't remember two different numbers? The only people who benefit are those who want to subdivide, and they can already add to their lots by doing their ADUs. The state has already mandated 3 housing units, so the opportunity is already there. Like I said at the last meeting, please keep the zoning table as it is for residential single family. Let's see how the mandates work out before going further.
Next, we have Jacqueline Whalen.
Jacqueline Whalen, Milton, Washington. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. The city proposed reduction in the minimum lot width requirement for the single-family zoning district to increase housing density without long-range strategic planning and the creation of zoning regulations that mitigate impacts and produce attractive results in harmony with the local neighborhood and Milton's small-town feel. It's not required, it's not needed, it's not wanted, it's premature. It's not required. There's no state mandate, to reduce minimum lot width. There's no mandate to do that. It's not needed. We can meet our housing growth targets with the available land now, with the lot analysis that was done at the start of the comprehensive plan. That has been a consistent statement from our consultant. It's not wanted. Every survey I've done, and I've been paying attention to this since 2002, asking people, what do you like, what do you want? As a planning commissioner, I want to hear your views. Small town feel, I moved here because there's no big density issues going on. It's so consistent. It's so consistent. It's premature. The city's changing zoning regulations without long-range planning, without citizen input. I mean, the neighborhood sitting around the table saying, we know what we love, let's figure out a way to embrace it and take it with us as our neighborhood evolves, as things change and grow. There's none of that in the zoning code regulations right now. And there's none of that in the proposed changes. That's what I'm hearing that people want. I doorbelled. I can tell you 100% of the people I spoke to said, no, thank you, not what I want. I really wish they wouldn't do it. Why are they doing it? I couldn't come up with great answers to say why, but it's a universal wish. People don't want increased density. So when it's something that's not required, not needed, not wanted, I got the question every time, why are they doing it? Subject of a later discussion, but we don't need to make that change. My request is to please take this off the discussion, the 60-foot lot width requirement in the single-family zone. Take it off the discussion. Budget money. Let's get the neighborhoods together. Let's get the people involved in defining what they want for their neighborhood as population grows, needs and interests change. But to be diminishing people, dismissing people, it's not the way to look at this. And when I did an analysis based on Councilmember Strader's comment, my numbers are 40% of the lots will be affected, either right off the bat with the panhandling.
Ms. Whalen, can you
Or-
finish your comment, please?
Yes, I can. Thank you. The issue is this is a big deal, and our neighborhood, chuckle all you like, you're not in the crosshairs of this.
Ms. Whalen,
You're
your
not
time is
impacted
up
by
for this time. Thank you. That includes our citizen participation. Moving on to additions and deletions. Are there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Councilmember Strader?
Well, I'm wondering, shouldn't we just have could we open up a discussion about this with council and talk about it amongst ourselves?
That, if council wants to, I just want to remind you all that you wanted the opinion of the planning commission, and we don't have that official opinion, so this will not come back to council till January.
Well, rather than have it on their agenda, if we just say, if we can come to a agreement that the 60-foot lot reducement isn't what we really want, and they can focus on what they really want to get done.
Audience, I do have to have you hold your comments, though you can nod, we can get that. I don't hear a second from any council member. Council member, anyone want to second adding it to the agenda?
My comment is to this is that, you know, I have feelings against, on this too, but I really want to respect, since it's not coming back until January, I do really want to respect the Planning Commission and those citizens that volunteer to be on that commission to get their report and hear what they're saying about this. It's something tonight that we're not going to make I'm not willing to make a decision on until I hear from that body of the city that, again, are citizens that are volunteering to be on that Planning Commission that have talked about this for months. And I really want to hear that before I go forward with something else.
But they haven't talked about it for months. They were first given that lot reducement in November. That's the first time they saw it. So that's what I said last council member. This was kind of dropped at the last minute, so.
Planning Manager Stallmaker, I'm sorry.
I believe it was October that the Planning Commission was first introduced on that. They did not have, it might have even been September, but I'd have to double check. There was some discussion at the last meeting, and they wanted to continue it to this month's meeting, and I'm sure that'll be one of the topics they discuss. And again, there are pros and cons to that decision, but yes, you don't have their recommendation yet. And so normally we don't make decisions on that till we have their recommendation.
Okay, I'm not hearing a second, so we'll move forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Moving on to the consent agenda, is there any questions, or can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda this evening? Mayor Pro Tem?
I move to pass the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been passed by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker and seconded by Councilmember Hall to pass the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Next item on our agenda this evening is a public hearing. It's on page 19 of your packet. I will turn the floor over to our interim finance director, Michelle Robeck, for a brief overview, and then the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The 2025 preliminary budget document was provided to the City Council and available to the public on October 14th, and discussion was held at the study sessions on October 14th and November 12th. The first public hearing on the 2025 preliminary budget was held on November 18th. This second public hearing is scheduled to take public testimony regarding the 2025 budget. This is an opportunity for citizens to express their suggestions and opinions. Adoption of the 2025 budget may follow this public hearing, and the 2025 budget must be adopted prior to December 31st, 2024.
I will now open the public hearing at, 7:14 p.m. to take public comment on the 2025 budget. Just a reminder to please state your name and city for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. The buzzer does go off. If you can just finish your sentence, that would be appreciated. Mr. Nelson, you said you did not want to speak? No, ma'am. Okay. So we have Jacqueline Whalen.
Jacqueline Whalen, Milton, Washington, and I will apologize to council in my inability to maintain greater composure at the podium. I watched what happened last month, and it was plenty fine to go beyond 3 minutes. So, the only thing I'm really going to point out is on page 84 of your packet of 157, the community park outdoor meeting venue. That's pretty much a description that the public notice was, the budget item for an outdoor meeting venue at Milton Community Park to provide a covered, well-ventilated space for city meetings and gatherings during a pandemic and future emergencies. There's nothing in there about this being a heart of the city, let's have weddings, it is, and so it's sort of downplayed in your budget. You're saying this is what it's for, but people showed up at an earlier meeting saying they really want this and they're expecting it to be, you know, a big event venue. So I think well, I'll leave my opinions to it, just to say, I still oppose the decision that you all made to approve it, and I think that for many people that I've spoken to about it, they're just sort of shocked. Why spend money this way? There's sidewalks and other things that are more important, and golly, we go through such a loud experience during Milton Days. It's once a year, people can bear it, but to have it be an ongoing thing, there's just two different messages. Is this just for the pandemic or is it not? That's the crucial point. If you're going to make it an outdoor meeting venue, it needed to have special use permit. It needed to go to a hearing examiner. There needed to be a 1,000-foot notice. That's not the way this went. So for all those people who came forward, they're going to be mighty disappointed when they said it's going to be so great for building community. This is an emergency use structure. The message, you know, that's the message that people got in the summer. Those of us who got our mail late were too late to make a comment, but it's really confusing to the public. Thank you.
Next, we have, I'm sorry, Jackie Strader. Did I give you this? I did, okay.
Jackie Strader, Milton, Washington. I am only commenting on, it's on the budget, page 91, the electric capital, the substation. So the amount that's shown no longer includes the land. And so I don't know if it's just a placeholder for what's left of the $2 million that were taken out of the bond. But it seems like a lot since we've already we've spent $105,000 in the past on a different contractor that did work. So I'm just not sure what's going on the project, and I guess that's beyond the budget, but it would be nice as a citizen to get a full overview of where the substation is, because it's way past due. And I hate to have the one we have fail and go without power. Thank you.
Having received all comments, I'll now close the public hearing at 7:17 p.m. We have 3 items this evening, Council, or 3 remaining items, and the first one is found on page 21 of your packet. It is ordinance 2103-24. It is for the 2025 budget. Interim Robeck, did you have anything you want to add?
Just beyond what was stated for the public hearing, I did want to note that there have been some changes made to the budget document as it was presented on November 18th, just to incorporate the 2024 budget amendment number 3. So that only affects the 2024 budget numbers in the document, not the 2025. But this amendment modified the wage scale and increased 2024 budget amounts in the general fund, street fund, and information technology fund. Comparison amounts in the mayor's budget message were adjusted to reflect these changes as well. I did also want to mention briefly that at our last Finance Committee meeting, we addressed some comments that Councilmember Preddy had about the rainy day fund, and decided that it might be, had that code that established the rainy day fund and how it's worded might be something we might want to in a future study session or budget retreat.
And just before a motion is made, Ms. Whalen's comments regarding the CIP project seem valid. So does that need to be the verbiage need to be adjusted? And is that something that council would need to approve, or because it's just verbiage, you could adjust after the fact?
That's a good question. I think because it is verbiage and not numbers, we could adjust it. And that is the same description that we've used in other documents and we've used in previous years. And I don't think it was meant, the way it was written wasn't meant to mean that it's specifically only used for emergency of pandemics. I think the intention was that's why it's being built, but that it could be used for various other meetings and gatherings.
Okay. Council, so if someone would like to make a motion, we can open up the floor for discussion. Councilmember Hall?
Move to adopt ordinance 2103-24, approving the 2025 budget, setting anticipated revenue, appropriating funding for expenditures, and authorizing staffing levels for 2025.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Hall and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker to adopt ordinance 2103-24, approving the 2025 budget, setting anticipated revenue, appropriating funds and expenditures, and authorizing staffing levels for 2025. Councilmember Hall, did you want to speak to your motion?
We've been through this. I feel comfortable with it.
You're good? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, did you want to speak to your second?
Yes, thank you. Now, we discussed in the Finance Committee meeting and also in the last meeting, I believe, when we were here, there was to make sure that the funds that need to have their minimum amount compared to, was it you saying REIT was the one that reminded me. Or you said REIT, that we had brought it up in the Yeah, and then you had said you were going to go back and revisit those to make sure that they're the right percentages to the general fund.
The rainy day fund.
Yeah,
yes, yes. And so the wording in the code could be possibly interpreted in a couple of different ways. We have historically interpreted it the way that it is in the budget document, but after Councilmember Preddy brought that up, I could see how it could be interpreted differently. And so that's why this suggestion was made to maybe bring it back to the whole council. If that's something that with the verbiage in the code is something that we want to clarify or change or possibly even increase that percentage at a future study session, budget retreat, something like that.
I apologize. I didn't mean to confuse you. You look like, what do you mean? Yeah, I know that we had discussed that, and maybe it was my fault that I didn't understand completely if you were going to go back between then and now and bring that forth. Or
I don't think so. I mean, if we decide at a future date that we would like to change that and we'd like to up the 2025 contribution to the rainy day fund, we could also do that through a budget amendment. We could change the verbiage and do a budget amendment to increase that if that's something that the council was interested in. Absolutely.
yeah, okay, thank you.
And we had Interim Roebuck and I had discussed after your guys' meeting that we'd bring that in the early springtime back to council before we start the next budget session, if that's okay with everybody. Okay. Councilmember Cedar?
Yeah, I just want to voice my support for this budget. I think, just to state for a minute, I think the budget is the most important thing we do. It's an expression of our policy and our priorities, and this is the first time as a member of council when we've passed a budget where we've dedicated, over $1 million to sidewalks and a substantial portion to traffic calming, more than we have in the past. And so I think that expresses, when we hear this small town feel, a lot of people use that term. For me, a small town feel is the city I grew up in, where we could walk to school, where our children could walk to their friends and not fear getting hit by a car. I think this is a substantial step towards that, and I appreciate the Public Works Department's commitment to that. Obviously, our law enforcement's commitment to that as well, and all the work that goes into this budget to make it work for a small town that doesn't have infinite resources. So I just want to say thanks. I'm proud of this budget, and I think we've done good work to get to this point.
Any other comments? Councilmember Strader?
I'm all for sidewalks and places for kids to walk, but what really concerns me is we were told about this substation it's on its last leg, could fail possibly any time, and we're not any closer to solving that issue. So that's my concern.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. We did a public hearing on this, so we'll move forward with council vote. It has been moved by Councilmember Hall and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker to adopt ordinance 2103-24, approving the 2025 budget, setting anticipated revenue, appropriating funding for expenditures, and authorized staffing levels for 2025. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Moving on to our next item this evening, it is on page 117 of your packet. It is Resolution 24-1979, amending the fee schedule. I will turn the floor over to Interim Director Robeck, and then following her review, I will need a motion to open up the floor for discussion.
Thank you again. The Events Committee recommended increasing Milton Days vendor fees from $150 to $160 for food vendors and from $100 to $110 for non-food vendors. Milton Days vendor fees and for nonprofit clubs, organizations, and government agencies will remain at $50. All other fees in the fee schedule are unchanged.
Councilmember Peretti?
I move to adopt Resolution 24-1979, the updated fee schedule as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Peretti and seconded by Councilmember Cedar to adopt Resolution 24-1979, the updated fee schedule as presented. Councilmember Peretti, did you want to speak to your motion?
I just appreciate the Events Committee again, which is a citizen volunteered committee within our city that brings something forward when they're looking at the costs of bringing vendors in and how to also cover their costs that they have in the different events and that. So I appreciate them bringing that forward for us. It's not a huge change, but it's something probably they feel it's needed.
Councilmember Cedar, did you want to speak to your second?
Nothing further, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns from council? Councilmember White?
Yeah, this is not a very big change, obviously, but did we get anything else from the Events Committee other than the recommendation? I mean, what's the justification for this?
It's the increased cost of Milton Days, mainly in the rentals of like the porta potties, not garbage, porta potties, golf carts have been a huge increase in expense. Performers. So Milton Days cost around a little over $23,000 to put on without the cost of our staff. We brought in just shy of $20,000 in sponsorships and vendor fees. So you can see you have a shortfall about $4,000. The Events Committee does have a nice cushion, but I mean, we've been, like this year we exceeded donations, so we had a good year on that. But I mean, we could have a bad year next year, and then we're depleting our savings.
So what is the dollar amount that's increased?
Based on last year's vendors, which again, it might change a little bit with moving down to the lower field, it's about an extra $600 and some dollars. They did want to increase it a lot more because they were looking at other festivals like Fife, for instance. But every time we've done a small increase, we get a lot of pushback for a while. And so they'd rather just do some little small ones to get them where they want than doing like a $25, $35, $45 increase.
Okay, I mean, I'm always in favor of doing what it takes to solve a problem. And if this doesn't solve the problem, it would be good to know what dollar amount does solve the problem so that we know where we're going to. And perhaps rather than just raise it $10 tonight, we can schedule it like we did with the utility increases that we've had, so that we don't have to keep revisiting this over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, it was their suggestion because we are below whatever other people are charging, and they're just looking for ways to cushion our reserves. But I don't know if I could give you a number. I mean, you can see we're short about 4,000, but that's not actually completely accurate because we haven't got all the credit card slips in there. I can't really add any more to that.
Okay. I mean, I'll support this evening, but I would like to request that we get a better accounting of what it's going to take in order to solve the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard because until the year actually comes, we don't know what things are going to cost, right? Like performance this year, we spent, well, okay, I will tell you that next year, the kids zone will probably go up in cost because we got an extremely good deal because they were a first-time year vendor. So that will probably go up a couple $1,000s next year, right? So you're right, we probably do need to raise it a lot more, but there is a breaking point too for vendors that they're not going to pay over a certain amount for that day. And I think what will happen then is we need to rely on fundraising a lot more versus raising the fees.
Sure, and if that's the issue, then let's have a discussion about how we need to subsidize the event as well. So at least that can be on the public record that these fees are not meant to pay for the event.
Yeah, they don't even cover a fraction of it, to be honest. I mean, the vendor fees this year were $6,350, and the event cost $23,695. So we'll never get to a point where the vendor fee covers the expense. It's heavily relied on sponsorship. And then fundraising, but the events committee just felt that fundraising continued to dwindle. So that's why they don't really do it anymore. But there may be a point where they're gonna be forced to do fundraising.
Okay. If the pushback is from the vendors and it's heavily subsidized anyway, $600 is not going to make or break the subsidy that the city's giving. So
Could be an entertainer.
yeah, I just think I would like to have more data.
Okay.
It's hard to just get this, have an extra $600 when we don't have the full picture.
Okay.
But
Understood.
thanks, just a comment.
Yeah. Councilmember Strader?
I have to agree with Councilmember White on that. It'd be nice to have a little more information about what the numbers are.
Understood. Any other comments from council? This is an action item. Are there any comments from the audience? Okay. It has been moved by Councilmember Peretti and seconded by Councilmember Cedar to adopt Resolution 24-1979, the updated fee schedule as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Moving on to our last item this evening, it is on page 135 of your packet. It is an amendment to the professional service agreement with Transpo Group. I'm going to turn the floor over to Director Madden, and then following his review, I will need a motion to open up the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tonight, before you tonight, is a amendment to the professional service agreement for Transpo Group. The city first started working with Transpo Group through this contract in 2020. Transpo Group provides traffic engineering support for the city through our comp plan. They also updated the city's traffic calming program, identified the elements of it and created it for the city in collaboration. And city staff seeks to extend the existing on-call for 2 years. It currently terms out on December 31st of 2024. This amendment would extend it to December 31st of 2026 and add $100,000 of on-call funding that is not dedicated funding that the city will have to pay out. It just provides capacity, as typical on-call contracts do. The item before you tonight is to approve this to keep the city's on-call transportation engineer in place, and I'm happy to answer any questions after a motion.
I have a question.
Councilmember Cedar?
I move to authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 6 to the professional services agreement with Transpo Group for on-call transportation engineering and planning services in the amount of $100,000 and amending the completion date from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Cedar and seconded by Councilmember White to authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 6 to the professional services agreement with Transpo Group for on-call transportation engineering and planning services in the amount of $100,000 and amending the completion date from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026. Councilmember Cedar, did you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. Director Madden, I apologize for not having this information at my fingertips, but the previous authorizations that we've passed, have they been the same amount of $100,000?
They have not. The original contract was for $94,000 and change. I should say the existing amended contract is for $94,000. So this would add $100,000 to that, creating the overall ceiling of the on-call contract to $194,000. And it would also extend the date.
And so I guess what I'm curious about, 'cause that's what I recall, is kind of we've done it on a more per project basis, and this feels a little bit broader than that, especially when you look at the scope of work, and it's kind of generally traffic studies or information that the TIAs, right? Isn't that, yeah. But then it also has kind of, or whatever else we might need. And so I guess I'm wondering from your perspective, what is the reason for that broader authorization now?
Excellent question. It's for the traffic calming program.
So-
Yes.
So my understanding of the traffic calming program is that it's going to take citizen input and require kind of persistent studying throughout a period before we implement.
It has multiple different elements, but there is an element of consistent studying and monitoring of improvements to verify that they are making the correction that the city intended to make.
Okay. And then I guess I could see that, I'm not a financing expert, but I could see that being a bunch of small projects that are probably under the threshold requiring authorization, but you're asking for authorization for a larger amount to kind of cover all of that small work. Is that about right? Am I misinterpreting how that would work?
There would still be task order. So this would be a larger envelope approval, which would allow the city to contract with Transpo up to this dollar amount. Anything over certain purchase requirements, though, or contract requirements would still require us to come back to council for council approval and endorsement.
Okay, I appreciate that. So even within this kind of envelope, as you said, we would still approve something if it was above a certain amount?
Correct.
Correct, okay. I just restated what you said, but just want to make sure I understood. Okay, yeah, that helps me, thank you.
Councilmember White, did you want to speak to your second?
I don't really have anything else to add. I guess I can make an assumption that the city has thus far been happy with the work that it's received.
Correct. We have been.
Okay. If you're happy, I'm happy.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. So this extension too, I would assume, so they're going to monitor the data that they get after we get the traffic calming in place? Is that also why you're extending it, is because you'll be using them once that system goes into place? Am I?
Yes, the concept would be to work with a professional engineering firm to help us monitor improvements and also analyze the potential improvement that needs to be completed, physical improvement, to improve the overall safety of the corridor. And Transpo being the engineer of record with our traffic calming program, they're working with our comp plan They're a subconsultant of the comp plan. They're also the engineer of record on SR 99. So we've worked with them in many different capacities. A task order would need to be created to request their ongoing monitoring. So that would be a different task order than this. This is just the overall contract limits.
Okay. So I assume that really we'll be using them for quite some time. Right? I mean, we should expect then, not an amendment necessarily, but this to be extended into the future, even past 2026. I'm not trying to catch you. I just want to understand if is that the case? Is it?
That's a potential outcome. There's been no discussion, though, about extending this or increasing it beyond 2026. The concept here is we have a good relationship going with Transpo. We are in the middle of our comp plan and our traffic calming program, getting that off the ground. So the staff would like to continue doing what has worked for us over the last 2 years and work with them for at least another 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Hall?
It's more of a question. Once the traffic cameras come online, who's going to be responsible for monitoring the side streets? Because people are going to try to go around those cameras. I could see where that might happen. Would it be our police force? And then who acts on it? How do we get the data? I can see where we could have a stream of people going down Emerald or Taylor.
We work together, and so sometimes the complaint comes into Public Works, sometimes it comes into the police department, and then if it comes into Public Works, he talks to me. If it comes into me, I talk to him, and then usually we work together to do engineering studies of the areas, and sometimes it's citizen complaint driven, sometimes it's council driven, sometimes it's mayor driven, and sometimes it's the police, but most of the time we're out there on the side streets. But again, we know that once Google Alerts says monitored by blah, 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 they're going to start trying to figure out how to skirt it. And the problem is this is the reality of our city, is that whether we like it or not, by location, we are the turnpike for 167, the Pack Highway, I-5, Enchanted Parkway, Sumner, Puyallup, and so we do the best we can to hold the tide back. And we make the adjustments. We go here, and then they go there, and then we go there, and we go there.
Thank you.
The only thing that I would add to what Chief has said is we do work together, and we have that mobile radar trailer that says police on the side. You've seen it out. That is a way for the city to collect data. We also counsel the speed signs that you invested in and allowed Public Works to move forward with last year. Those are all capable of also pulling data, speed data, for 2 weeks at a time. And so that would be another tool to help us monitor side streets.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, this is an action item. Are there any comments from the audience? Okay. It has been moved by Councilmember Cedar and seconded by Councilmember White to authorize the mayor to execute Amendment Number 6 to the Professional Services Agreement with Transpo Group for an on-call transportation engineering and planning services in the amount of $100,000 and amending the completion date from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Moving on to council reports, we'll start with Councilmember Hall this evening.
Had a comment from a citizen. They like the garage doors back here. Did bring up the paint, looks a little shady. That's 2 people, actually. And working on the council parade. Let me know if you're going to do it. If you can't do it, it's fine. Just let me know so we make sure we've got it all covered. I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks for heading that up, by the way. Councilmember Strader.
Nothing.
Okay. Councilmember Cedar.
I will be at the council parade and nothing else.
Councilmember Peretti?
I'll be at the parade also. And also, I'm encouraged that maybe we could have a substation update just at one point, because I think there's a lot of misinformation and just lack of information out there too about really who owns the substation right now, what the property is, who has it, how it's fed, where it comes from in Fife and all of that. That I think just having that data out would ease a lot of people of understanding what's going on there and how there's many players besides just the city of Milton that are in that process.
Councilmember White?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Being that everybody knows gets lighter later in the morning, you know, and it also gets darker earlier. So I just put out there that know that kids are going to school, they're walking, they don't think that nobody can see them. And so I just want you to be cognizant that kids are out there either walking to school, walking home, or just out, especially in the afternoon. And they're going to the school to play in the, in the football field, whatever. Just be aware. We want to keep those kids around.
Thanks for the reminder. Moving on to Director's report. Planning Manager Stolnecker, do you have anything? No. Director Madden?
I just wanted to update council and let you know there are freezing weather conditions coming. The city is ready. We've gone through all of our equipment. All of our ice melt is in place. And just like the windstorm, we'll be ready to respond. That's all.
Interim Director Obeck?
No comments.
Chief?
Well, I'm glad to be back from vacation. We have one officer who has started, and we have a second officer that's going to be starting on Thursday, so we'll have 2 officers in training. We're still down 3 officers. Talked to Officer Sarf, his bicep, he's just starting to start physical therapy with that. Officer Haney is starting his physical therapy hardening, trying to get him back, but still probably 1 to 2 more months before we see Officer Haney back. Officer Sarf, probably won't see him for another 2 months. And then our sergeant, one of our sergeants, is also out for various surgeries, but he'll be back. And then potentially anticipating one of our sergeants to retire, we'll see. And then again, it continues to stay very busy. Today, just listening to the radio, I heard at least 2 drive-by shootings. Fife just had a shooting about 2 hours ago. They got the suspect into custody. While I was on vacation, we had a car at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Guy goes in the grocery outlet, comes back out, individual in his car. He was a CPL permit carrying individual. He drew down on the individual. The individual got scared and ran off. Looked in the car, saw that there was a loaded Glock with an extended magazine that had also been altered to be fully automatic. So again, it can happen anytime, anywhere, and because of the season, package thefts are through the roof. So be vigilant, and like I always say, if you see something, say something, call us. You're not bothering us. I know a lot of people are like, I don't want to call 911. They will prioritize your call, and sometimes what you don't know is that we might already be looking for someone, and so maybe they've ran from us, and so now they're doing something else in someone else's backyard. That's the way we ended up getting an individual who had stolen a large construction truck, ran through a bunch of yards, went into someone's garage, and started having a conversation. That person called. Turned out that was the guy we were looking for. So again, we can't do it without you. You are the force multiplier. You're our eyes and ears. You're not bothering us. You're doing us a favor if you make that phone call. So please call. And if you are never happy with if you're not happy with what the service was, I want to know about it. I can't fix things if I don't know about it. So we don't want you just to be like, cops didn't do anything. For example, today we had a good citizen who made a phone call about some burning. The fire department was dispatched. He was a little bit testy, so the police went out there, assisted the fire department. We were able to take care of the problem. So again, we appreciate citizen participation. It's about quality of life here.
Thanks, Chief. Welcome back. And happy belated birthday.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Just 2 quick things. I just want to address the comment that was made that last month we allowed citizen comment to go longer. I do run a consistent meeting, I feel, and there are exceptions sometimes. Last month, the gentleman was extremely nervous, and so I did let him finish his public comment. I then allowed the remaining people to make their public comments, and they took full advantage of more than 3 minutes. So I do try to be consistent, but from time to time, there are exceptions, and I apologize. I will not let that happen again. And then just a reminder that next week we have a special session. So it'll be at 7 o'clock since we are taking action. And so next Monday is our last meeting of the year, 7 o'clock. So don't get here at 4. You'll be waiting a long time. Okay. But you can come sit over in our office and chat. So is there anything else this evening? Wonderful. Seeing that all agenda items have been concluded, I